We've got a big Marvel television update. Star Wars finally dropped the Andor Season 2 trailer, and it rocks. DC Studios releases a State of Being, and that's just scratching the surface of what we have this week. All that and more after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on our illustrious panel today, we have Haley Hobbs. How's it going?
Oh, illustrious. Just definitely feeling that way.
Yeah. And really illustrating some things with that mustache. Jay Sisson, how's it going?
Hey, we talk about Pedro Pascal, but then sometimes I just got to emulate him too in the in the live stream. So, I got to bring the mustache every once in a while. Yeah. It is what it is.
I'm not joking. I know I've been teasing you about it since you joined the stream, but I think that mustache is your look.
Well,
man.
thank you.
It looks so natural.
I appreciate it.
So natural. So if you're not watching the video version this week, you should really if you're on Spotify,
just click
open
in
the
for
app
a sec. Check it out.
Check out the beauty.
Vote yes or no. Maybe this is the poll question this week.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Should Jay keep the mustache? I love it.
It does make me want to start calling you coach, though, I will say.
No objectifying me in the comments, okay? I understand the mustache has a certain aura, but
they weren't going to till you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
You bring this upon yourself.
Listen, I'm not going to objectify you, but I'm not going to say that it's not sexy.
Okay.
It's a sexy mustache.
I didn't expect such a reaction, but thank you.
I will not deny its magnetism. Okay, sorry. Jay Scotty waiting on the mustache. How you doing, Jay Scotty?
Yeah. Well, on the subjects of looks, in this moment, I choose to be grateful because just in time for Multiverse News, the giant zit I was rocking for the better part of a week on my forehead decided to clear up in
Yay!
time. So, let's go.
Woo-hoo! Congratulations.
Celebrate good times.
So really, you and Jay are both having really good look days.
Yeah, we're feeling ourselves. Yeah.
It's a glow up. Yeah.
A glow up.
You can't hide confidence,
All right. Well, turn it to our 5-star review for today. We got Shirley Time says, I love this show. I listen to every episode. Matt is the single best podcaster out there.
Boo. There's 3 other people on this show, yo.
Nice. I completely agree with you, Shirley Time. You're just a wise person. Continuing, Shirley Time. She says, perfect blend of information, passion, warmth, and humor. However, if I may borrow your show's structure a tiny but. Please, for the love of all things holy, make Scotty stop saying, you stay classy, Multiverse.
No.
I race out of the shower to turn it off before he says it. So cringy.
No.
Make it stop.
No.
Boo. I mean this so sincerely. Boo.
Yeah.
I have to... While I the first part of your 5-star review I felt was very, very wizened. I do feel like you kind of veered off at the end there. Jay Scott's catchphrase for this show. It's a play on.
It's our thing.
Play on good old Anchorman. I love it.
It's our classic. Jay Scotty's classic.
That's our sign off.
Yeah. The fact that I don't have to say anything speaks volumes. Thanks for the 5 stars. Not going to happen anymore. You stay classy.
Stay classy, Shirley Time. But I like that she used the tiny butt. I really thought when I read this might be a poll question, but no, mustache has taken over. Mustache takes precedent.
Yeah.
And even if they said no, we're still gonna say it. So that's really not a good poll question.
You don't have that much power. Sorry.
Thank you for your suggestion, but no. Rejected.
Surely you can't be serious.
Oh.
Shirley, you can't be serious. Come on, Shirley. You just stop hating and love the Jay Scotty. Embrace the Jay Scotty. He just gave you your own personal name pun. That's be honored.
Cringe is the mind killer, my friend.
Dude, cringe is my.
To be cringe is to be free, isn't that
That's
what
right.
we're saying?
Yes.
There's a teacher on TikTok that always yells that to her class. To be cringe is to be free, and that is my entire personality. I love it. Okay.
One more time before we move on. You say feels right.
Yeah.
Feels right.
We say it with confidence every week, but we will continue to say it with full confidence.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, it's Jay Scotty's catchphrase. We're not going to remove it. We're not going to give it away. But like that mustache is very Anchorman. I gotta say, maybe you guys are kind of splitting the Anchorman personality now. He's got the catchphrase. You've got the mustache.
Yeah.
You're taking the Anchorman substance. Remember, you are one.
A lot of references in that one small segment there. That you have to have seen a lot of movies to get what we're putting down.
That's what this show's all about. That is a great point, Jay, and I love that this is the community for that. Like, you got to know all these little nerdy, geeky references to get all the jokes, and I love it. All right. Well, a little housekeeping. We mentioned it last week, but we are going to be doing Multiverse news on a weird schedule over the next couple of weeks. Daredevil Born Again starts next Tuesday night, so we will be not recording that night. I'm not even sure what night we're recording it. Have you guys decided what y'all want to do?
We'll figure it out this week, I guess.
We'll figure it out. We will.
There's a framework. It's just not totally
I think the options that we're talking about is potentially doing audio only and no video for a set amount of weeks, or maybe doing a couple on like a different night of the week, like Wednesday night or something. We just, haven't decided on anything, but that's kind of what's being bandied about. So
cool.
But we'll keep you updated through all the socials and all that stuff if there's a delay or if it's a different time or something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So keep an eye on our socials and go join the Stranded Panda email list, strandedpanda.com, and we'll try to make sure it's updated there too. Plus, we'll be doing the Daredevil watches, and those are going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of Daredevil and all the Defenders, Brad Winderbaum, head of streaming, television, and animation for Marvel Studios, caught the attention of Defenders fans when he shared that Marvel is exploring bringing back the rest of the Netflix Defenders actors and characters. Krysten Ritter as Jessica Jones, Mike Colter as Luke Cage, and Finn Jones as Iron Fist. Winderbaum indicated that the studio is excited about the possibility, but that there are a lot of variables, and it will determine the success of pulling it all together. While this is fun to hear as fans, other Marvel TV is taking a pause. Though sources say these projects were never officially greenlit, Deadline reports that Nova, Strange Academy, and Terror Inc. are not currently being developed. This is mostly being attributed to Marvel's shift to traditionally run television shows, but in confirmed news, The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that Jon Bernthal will star in a Marvel Studios special presentation featuring The Punisher that will air in 2026 alongside the second season of Daredevil Born Again. Do you think Daredevil can hear our heartbeats start and stutter with these different bits of news?
Well, if he's anywhere within range of my heartbeat, he definitely heard it get a little bit faster because, this is incredibly exciting, and the timeliness just feels perfect because at the time of this recording, we also are hearing that Daredevil Born Again is getting rave reviews. And I've seen some quotes saying that it might be the best pilot of all the MCU TV shows so far. Now, we got to take that with a grain of salt because that's always the case. Whenever a new property like this comes out and people get to see it early, there's a lot of fervor. But I take it as a vote of confidence. I think everything that we've been hearing about this series, the fact that they went back and did the reworks, all of the marketing that we've seen thus far, the trailers have looked fantastic. We're 1 week away from it today. I could not be more excited for the return of Daredevil with Daredevil Born Again. So with that in mind, we already know that Punisher's going to pop up in there, and there's been a lot of rumors that some of these other Defenders could show up because when we first started talking about this show, we were under the impression that it was not going to have any connection to the Netflix verse outside of the casting of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. Thank you. It was right there and it came to me. So to have this as a possibility, I do find pretty exciting. I will admit, I was one of those watchers that when the season of Defenders came out, it did not land super well with me, and I did feel the burnout. I had been watching every single Netflix series and season up to that point alongside the CW stuff, and that's when I just hit that wall. It wasn't good enough to keep me coming back. So I have not seen the second seasons for Jessica Jones, for Luke Cage, or for Iron Fist, but particularly Krysten Ritter and Mike Colter. Those are the ones that I kind of glom onto and would be very excited to see return. Finn Jones, I feel kind of bad for him. As we've learned more and more, he didn't really get the time or space to learn the fight choreography like he should have. So I would be open to him returning, but I've always been part of that camp. Like, if we could bring back Jessica Henwick as Colleen Wing, that's what I would really like to see. But yeah, obviously a lot on the table here, a lot developing in the world of TV. And I think it's been a little bit of a process of them finding their footing, but I'm feeling really good about Marvel TV these days.
Me too.
I'm wondering about this Jon Bernthal Punisher special presentation that was being mentioned, because the words special presentation were used by some of the trades, but not all of the trades. It was kind of being pandered as like a presentation or whatever, but it was never confirmed as a series. Like, that was the one thing that they said. It's not a series, it's a one-off thing. So it's kind of got me wondering a little bit about the length of this thing. And I'm kind of thinking that there's a pretty good possibility this could be a Disney Plus MCU movie. Like, this could be a made for Disney Plus movie. Because I'm just thinking, like, okay, so you're going to bring back this character and do like a 30-minute thing. Like, it doesn't really feel like that's necessarily the direction that you would go if you were given the opportunity to do that. And so I think the idea that it will tell its own story, that it will be up against Daredevil, the second season, and probably somewhat play into that tells me that this might be something a little bit different, which I think is an experiment that Marvel should try. Like, the idea that we should do a made-for-TV MCU, especially with these smaller characters. If you want to do a movie, and maybe someone's come to you with a script and wants to do a movie, Jon Bernthal has partial writing credit on this thing, for example, that it would make a lot of sense because, you know, some of these characters, like the Punisher, you put him in a movie, and he's based in The Defenders, which was on Netflix, and then he's in this show that's on Disney Plus, and then you put him on the big screen. That movie's probably not going to be extraordinarily successful at the box office, but I could see it doing really well on Disney Plus. And then finally, just kind of looking at it, the director is Ronaldo Marcus Green. He did the Bob Marley movie and among other movies as well. So again, it just kind of leans credence to the fact, for me at least, that I would not be surprised if it comes out that this is actually some sort of a film, or it's much longer than these special presentations like Werewolf by Night and the Guardian special for Christmas, which were on like the 40-minute side of things.
Yeah, Guardians was 42 minutes, but Werewolf by Night was 54, so it got close to an hour.
You just had that right there.
I looked it up because I was curious, like, if this was going to be similar.
Actually, 42 minutes and 35 seconds.
Well, I do think that, like, there's a big difference between getting close to an hour. It's less like an episode.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
If anything, it's a long, like 42 minutes is a short episode of television. 54 minutes is a long episode of television, like nearing that hour mark. I don't know.
I'm not glad to see these other shows get shelved. But what I am glad is that Marvel does look like they're taking a serious look at what they were thinking about doing and maybe going, okay, this isn't quite the right time for this, as we're going back to adopting this model of traditional television show running, which we've known they've been doing. It's kind of shocking. I think the Nova series is the one that's surprising, just because we talked a lot about that one. But, you know, like the sources said, it wasn't really being developed. We didn't know much of anything. It was all kind of rumor and speculation. And so hopefully shelving it and coming back to it, or bringing the character in a more meaningful way in a film or another television show is in the plan. So I think it gives me confidence that not only are they going back to the well on the Netflix shows that were wildly popular and for the most part extremely well done, they're giving us what we want in that way, but they're also going, okay, we're actually going to take this seriously. We're not just going to develop everything under the sun because that didn't work.
Mm-hmm. I do think, you know, I'm both, just one thing that really excites me about this, and it's the fact that, I'm not sure if we may have already known this, but that season 2 of Daredevil is going to be coming in 2026. And that this Punisher series is our Punisher special presentation is alongside that, because they've been saying they're going to do more traditional TV running type things. And one of the things about that is a TV show generally tries to put out a season every year. Whereas, you know, the Netflix series were a little more sparse, but they were mostly kept it to about a year and a half. And then like a lot of the Disney Plus, those, it's like 4 years between sort of sequel series. And it's like, okay, this is it. I really love the idea of Daredevil just being like a stable every year 10 episodes or 9 episodes. That sounds amazing. And I'm really curious if the fact that this Punisher special presentation is running so close to the season 2 is the way I read that. That I'm wondering if it will like hand off to it or be handed off to, like, you know, whatever happens in that season 2 of Daredevil will relate to something that's going on in that special presentation in some way, whether in some small way possibly, or, you know, like Turk Barrett shows up in both and he's off doing something, or, you know, Punisher goes and cleans something up after Daredevil doesn't finish the job, you know, something like, who knows. I love this idea though. My one concern with thinking about bringing back the Defenders, I don't think they can bring back all these series. I think that's a terrible idea.
Sure.
I do. They didn't say that. They said they're talking about bringing back the actors and the characters. So I have a feeling we will get like them appearing on other shows. Maybe we'll get a second Defenders series. Maybe we'll get one of these like Jessica Jones or Luke Cage, and those other characters will drop in. I just think Marvel is going to get really oversaturated. If we were to bring back the old way that Netflix was doing it, while Marvel is still trying to produce regular Disney Plus shows, like WandaVision sequels and Ironheart and all this stuff, like it's just going to get too full, and we're going to get way beyond the overwhelm that we had a few years ago, you know?
I got the solution to bring back all 3 characters in one fell swoop. Heroes for Hire, and you have Luke Cage and Krysten Ritter, Jessica Jones be in that relationship.
Yeah.
And Misty Knight and Colleen Wing doing their thing too. Yeah.
Well, it all depends on the success of Daredevil. And that's why we're hearing all of this news right now, is because, okay, well, we're thinking about bringing the Defenders back and we're going to do this Punisher thing. It's because they're trying to drum up the idea that you should watch Daredevil, which is getting ready to pop on Disney Plus next week. You know, they're saying he's showing up and then we're going to do a thing with him later. And then if this goes well, you might see these guys again. You guys remember these guys from Netflix? And so it's all in an effort to push people towards Daredevil. And then the success of Daredevil or lack thereof will determine if we see these characters in this universe explored more. I mean, if Daredevil has good streaming numbers and gets good reviews and people are streaming it and watching it and talking about it, and it's by all measures a success on Disney Plus, then yeah, I mean, that season 2's coming. It's already filmed, but you'll get that season 2, you'll get the Punisher thing, and then, well, they want more, and there's an appetite for it, and let's bring those other characters in, and let's do a crossover, and let's put them in the season and all of that. But if the show doesn't do great numbers and it struggles a little bit and people don't really love it and they're, you know, whatever, fill in the blank for whatever reason a show doesn't do well, then, you know, these comments will walk back. So it's, again, it's a push towards this thing that's about to happen. And then the success of it will determine if we see more of it explored in different areas and in different ways. It was popular on Netflix, so they kept making more of them, you know, and it's the same thing for Disney Plus.
Yeah, for sure. I'm stuck on your idea, Jay Scotty, of a Heroes for Hire show that would include all of these characters. And I love that idea. I really do. Especially like if they expand it from the comics version where it's mostly just the 2 guys and they really make it like a team. Then you could even have drop-ins from other heroes from around the verse. Like I could see like Aman Vellani dropping in as Miss Marvel, just checking in with them and doing things because she's been on the TV side of Marvel, and other characters from around the city or around New York, like coming in just for an episode or 2. That would be
let's
really
have She-Hulk come to New York to visit Matt.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a big swing, and they aren't going to do exactly this because we have Sam Wilson as Cap, but at one point Luke is running the Avengers, like he's in charge, and Jessica's in there, and so I think it's all new, all different. I can't remember. No, that's Captain America. It doesn't matter, but like there could be elements of that where you get a real street level hero, kind of like Hawkeye was, you know, in the original Avengers for us in the MCU, so that could be fun.
Yeah, 100%. That sounds like tons of fun to me. All right. Well, I'm really excited to hear more about that. We were only but a few days away from Daredevil Born Again. I cannot believe it. I'm so pumped. And how? Up next, on Monday, we were treated to the surprise drop of the full Andor Season 2 trailer from Lucasfilm. In a very un-Star Wars-like fashion, the high-octane footage is set to the Revolution Starts Now by Steve Earle and reminds viewers of how acclaimed the first season was. The drop shared more interesting news. The 12-episode season will be dropped in increments of 3 episodes at a time for 4 weeks. Whew! Can we hold on to our credits while zooming through hyperspace at this speed?
I don't know, because I was really excited when this trailer dropped yesterday. I was like not expecting it, and not expecting the tone they went with at all. When you look at season 1 of Andor being very, very demure, very modest, it's a slow burn. It's quiet. It's getting all of Cassian's backstory, and so this is hard hitting, like action. Mon Mothma in the club, like Cassian looking suave as hell. I mean, like it's just a complete 180, which I think is really fun for this show. And so what it says on StarWars.com from Tony Gilroy is that the 4 weeks, the 4 arcs, I guess, the 3-episode arcs are going to be a year at a time of 4 years leading up to Cassian in Rogue One, essentially. And so that's cool too, because we thought we were just getting like 1 year ahead of Rogue One. No, we're getting 4 years, and we're going to see the rebellion just like be a thing and grow, which is super cool. So I loved the trailer. I loved the needle drop. I know it's not very Star Wars, but I think that it fits so well. And hell yeah, the revolution is now in Star Wars. That's the whole theme. Like, that's the point, right? And so I just loved it. I can't wait. I was kind of like, I loved Andor, but it was not one of my top things in terms of a week-to-week thing. So getting this binge model with it for season 2, I think is going to be awesome.
I think so too. And as for it not seeming like Star Wars, I think the tone of the first season doesn't feel like Star Wars. It is Star Wars in every like aspect.
It's
but
not
the tone,
classic Star Wars. Yeah,
you're right. Well, just the tone is very serious, very adult, and I think this one seems like it's going to have a lot of that DNA. But it does. He has now stepped into the world of this like revolution, and he is a spy, and like that's what I loved about this trailer, seeing those shots from him from the back and showing him in different costumes each time, and then showing a little bit of that adventure that looked really cool, and him dressing up and kind of doing the 007 thing where he's like actually having to like look kind of posh and be in this environment and then go over and that is not what I didn't expect. That part, I thought he was just going to be more of a what we saw in Rogue One, which is much more like down and dirty and doing the violence he needs to do. But I love the idea that they're like training him as like an espionage agent. That's very exciting.
Well, that was my big takeaway too. Like, even in terms of like the musical choice there, like, this is not your dad's Star Wars, and this is not Star Wars for kids. And now Star Wars is made for kids, but this is not. Like, they're not afraid to go there. Like the shot of like the cadaver in the forefront, like, it looks incredible. It looks phenomenal. It looks like it's going to really go there. But my other big takeaway is like, I need to go back and rewatch season 1. And I was planning on doing that, but this was really like the kick in the pants that I needed to do that. My other big takeaway was like, this was clearly shot on location, not on a volume. Like, you can just, it's just apparent. Sure.
That's
with
why
like,
it costs so much.
Yeah, exactly. So you might not be seeing as many alien characters. We might be spending more time with more human characters, but it's going to allow us to be on location, have some really, what looks like to me, some really thrilling action set pieces there. But in terms of like the release schedule there, I find myself more and more open to experimenting and trying things different. We just saw My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man do it with like 2 episodes and 3 episodes here. So, how that impacts the water cooler conversation, I think, we'll still have to figure that out. But yeah, I think it makes sense when you're going to, have the time jump like that, separate it into 3 episodes at a time. I kind of dig that.
Yeah, well, the water cooler thing, I mean, for Andor at least, we lose sight of this because we watch all this stuff, but Andor was not streamed that much. Like, if you look at Disney Plus shows and how much they're streamed, Andor is pretty far down. Like, it's not really one of those shows, that's kind of like inspiring the weekly thing and doing what other shows have done on Disney Plus or other platforms. Like, it's not one of their more successful shows in that avenue. But like you said with the trailer, it focused on where it is successful, which is that it has been massively critically acclaimed pretty much universally as being some of the best Star Wars in general, because it is different. It does lean into stuff that we've covered and talked about here. And so I think with the trailer, it's just saying, like, that's what we're going to be. Like, we're going to keep chasing what made us successful in that way, not necessarily chasing the streaming numbers. So I think the setup of the idea of these 3 episodes are a thing. Like, it's kind of like 4 self-contained stories almost that are going to release together in these chunks. That makes so much more sense because, again, we're grouping them by arc. Like, these 3 episodes cover a year, and then you wait a week and you get 3 more episodes that cover a different year. And I would imagine that there is a degree of feeling like you're closing these story arcs every time you get those 3 episodes. So I think that's a brilliant strategy for this particular show because, again, they're not going to be that huge millions of people watching as soon as it drops type show. Like, they're not doing like the Severance thing or the Game of Thrones thing or whatever. That's not the kind of show it is. So the idea of dropping like this, I think, plays to its strengths. And then I started thinking about the trailer. I mean, have we ever seen a Star Wars trailer that has music that's not Star Warsy type music? Because I can't think of a time.
Maybe Skeleton Crew had one that was wasn't it like a cover of another song we knew?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
The Tom something
song.
Yeah.
Major Tom, Ground Control MMA, whatever it was.
That was a really unique and fun.
Song. I keep saying that song. It's never the right song. I keep singing the wrong thing. I did that when it came out too.
But yeah, I mean, I think that really, again, it leans into what made the show good, and it leans into what people want from it, and it made the trailer really exciting for me in a different way. Like, I find myself a lot more engaged than if it was just playing Star Wars strings and brass or whatever in the background. Like, I think this show's going to be one that we're gonna look back on at the end of the year and be like, man, like that was one of the best shows we watched this year. By the time we're all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. It's talking about what it highlights and how it really highlighted, I think, what it needed to highlight, and that is it's very character-driven trailer. Like, there's moments of big, like there's battle moments and explosions, but like so many just like hero shots of the many characters we got to know last season. A lot of them doing something a little different than they did last season. There's one shot of the Imperial officer that I'm not remembering his name or anything, or the
Cyril?
actor
or Krennic.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I think he's talking about Cyril, probably.
The guy dressed in all white.
Oh, Krennic.
Oh,
Krennic.
Sorry,
okay,
it was Krennic. My bad.
He looked like he was being like kind of like smarmy and like in a way that just like looked like he's kind of laughing, and that's not really what you exactly expect from that character. And I just think it looks great. I just think so much of it looks really cool.
I am excited to see Cyril again, though. He was one of those characters I forgot about, and the second I saw that guy's face again, I was like, that guy.
Yeah. I've got to rewatch it. I don't remember anybody's name. I barely remember people's roles in the show. It was one I watched it week to week, and I had a hard time following it.
It's been a while too.
Like, the last half.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I forget what show we were talking about. Maybe last week, but some shows you kind of watch. Oh, it was Dune Prophecy. We were talking about it on Bingers Assemble. How the first half of that season felt kind of all over the place, and then the last half you're like, oh, I'm locked in. I know what the story's about now. I think that Andor felt the same way. A lot of disparate storylines kind of weaving together, and then by the last half I was like, okay, I'm locked in. I'm loving every minute of this. All right, moving on to our next story. DC's duo of James Gunn and Peter Safran took time to have a press event last Friday where they updated us, the people, on where things are going with DC Studios. It's been just over 2 years since the big film and television overhaul with DC was announced, with Gunn and Safran taking control of the franchise. Gunn reiterated their desires to bring new stories to life with these characters. The updates include the following. Supergirl is halfway through production. Lanterns began production last week. Clayface will be directed by James Watkins and is eyeing a fall 2026 release. Sergeant Rock, still being directed by Luca Guadagnino, no longer has Daniel Craig attached and is looking for its new star. And the animated Robin movie, Dynamic Duo, is in pre-production. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, Gunn had some comments about The Brave and the Bold that some are taking as confirmation that Robert Pattinson will not be the DCU's Batman, with the filmmaker saying, it's certainly not the plan. And Safran added, and we love him, but we've got to introduce a Batman into the DCU. That's imperative. And so that's the plan with Brave and the Bold. Pause to take a breath, DC. Can we keep up with Gunn and Safran's pace?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. This This apparently was some kind of private press event on Friday. It was an invitation-only thing where Gunn and Safran invited various reporters from trades and sites and just media outlets to come and basically ask them questions. So they weren't really presenting anything. Like, they weren't saying, hey, here's our new slate. It was more just like, what kind of questions do you have? And so, interestingly enough, if you go read the article on all of the trade sites about this event, Variety and Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and all of them, they all kind of say different things about it. Like, they're all kind of like focusing on different things. So like, one's hyper focused on Batman, one's hyper focused on confirmed projects. It's kind of all over the place. And so I don't know if it's the best way of releasing information, because when you look at this, it's simultaneously a lot of news nuggets and also nothing at all. You know, like, when you look at it, it's weird. But I guess if we're trying to look at it, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the sentiment from James Gunn that a lot of projects that were announced at the beginning have diverted into two buckets. It's, you've got some in the we're still working on them and they're done, or they're getting there, or they're getting ready to start production, or the script's being worked on, or whatever, or they're falling into the bucket of, we just aren't there with this particular thing, and I don't know when we'll get there. So you mentioned the list, Superman and Lanterns and Supergirl and Clayface and all of this. But then there were all these other movies and shows that were mentioned at the very beginning when they announced the DCU, like James Mangold's Swamp Thing, like The Authority, like Booster Gold, like all of these like random other projects that have kind of gone into the scrap heap. And James Gunn, you know, he went out of his way to say, look, they're still happening, I think, but like they're just various Waller is another one, just various reasons. Maybe the script's not there. Maybe we're just not quite at the point of feeling like this is something that we're ready to do yet. Or like in James Mangold's case, he just hasn't really moved forward on Swamp Thing yet. And it just, again, it's kind of like it's a problem in Marvel and DC. It's been more of a DC problem than a Marvel problem, but it's announcing too much at the beginning. It's like throwing it all out there. We're doing X, Y, and Z, and then having to roll it back a few years later. So James Gunn also said, you know, I have a 6-year plan to culminate this universe in like an Avenger-style event. Makes total sense. But what's that going to look like if the only characters you've established are Superman, Supergirl, and Clayface? You know what I mean? Like, how are we doing it, you know, with that? Is there going to be a Batman? Paradise Lost, this whole like Wonder Woman prequel apparently is way on the back burner too. So like, what are we doing with that? And it leaves, again, this is what I mean by it's a lot of information. It's simultaneously not a lot of information, because I'm left with a lot of questions about what that plan looks like. Like, apparently Andy Muschietti's not writing The Flash, or not The Flash, the Batman Brave and the Bold. Apparently James Gunn insinuated he was working with a writer, and he refused to name the writer, which was weird. He was like, nah, I can't tell you who the writer is because it would put too much pressure on him, but I'm working close with him because I love Batman. And you're like, wait, what? So who's directing it? And they're like, well, Andy Muschietti will see the script first. And they're like, so is he directing it? They're like, maybe. You know, it's like weird. It's like a weird thing. So
like, keep my seat warm for me, kid.
So, you know, if you told me tomorrow James Gunn was like, I'm directing Batman Brave and the Bold, I'd be like, well, duh, of course you are, you know? So who knows at this point? So, you know, I think there's plenty of reasons still to be excited about DC and DCU and DC Studios and all of this. I like the idea that they're creator driven. I like the idea that they will not move forward on something without scripts. But we're also seeing the downside of that, because they don't have a Feige that's like, give me a script by the end of the month or else. You know, it's more like, oh, James Mangold, you want to give me a Swamp Thing script in 6 years? Cool, no big deal. You know, like, it's a different style, and there's pros and cons to it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it's because they haven't disappointed us yet, but it feels to me like a lot is coming out, especially the fact that they took over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've got all this stuff on the slate and all this stuff ready. It feels like the early days of Marvel to me, where you've got, you know, every couple movies a year will start coming, and we're gonna start feeling that like buildup of DC content to some sort of Justice League or something like that, World's Finest, something. I just this event sounds terrible, and it feels like, because none of these stories are big. None of them are big at all. They are all lightning round stories normally on a normal week, but there's enough of them that it made an event out of it. And like, that feels to me like James Gunn was trying to put on an El Capitan theater moment, but like didn't have the goods. It's like, look at all the stuff I want to announce, all these properties. I have tiny announcements about each one. Instead of like dropping a slate, he's just like, here's a little bitty nugget of information, the same kind of information I roll out every week, but there's enough of them that I'll leave Twitter and come into the real world, and that feels funny to me.
That's just it. It's like, yo guys, listen to all this stuff that we're doing that I've already told you about on every social platform because I can't help myself and I've got an itchy trigger finger when it comes to the post button. I was like writing this up and I'm like, okay, James, Peter too, I guess. Peter's just there, right? He's just like the side of ketchup you get with a burger. It's like, oh, there's Peter too. Sorry, Peter Safran, it's not your fault. But it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not also hooking us anymore.
Should also be mentioned that they did also announce that they have no major plans of doing anything with Comic-Con this year, which I think is insane. Like, I think that's the most insane thing that he said. This whole thing was like, you have Superman coming out. Like, you have Peacemaker coming out a month after that. You have Supergirl will have wrapped shooting at that point. Like, why? Like, why would you not?
Comic-Con wrong, James Gunn.
I was going to say, what's his beef? Because this was this last year too.
Yeah, like go do your slate announcement at Comic-Con and people will love it and they'll get excited for it and you can promote the hell out of Superman and all your other stuff. Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I agree with the take that none of these stories do a ton to move the needle all that much. But if you were to listen to the rest of the internet, those final comments from Gunn regarding Pattinson's, status as not being the DCU Batman, they would say that is headline and feature worthy. But I'm kind of with everybody else here. I've just gotten to that point with James Gunn. It's funny. Like if I had a Venn diagram, he exists in this very unique cross section where it's like a public figure that I respect, but I also don't trust a word that comes out of his mouth. And there are very few of those, but he exists within that sphere there. So I will look at the some of the announcements here. So like the Clayface movie, we were just talking about that last week to learn that it is going to be James Watkins. Last week I said I thought that maybe Jeff Wadlow was the better guy, but I do think if you look at their filmography and stack the films up side by side, James Watkins is probably the stronger filmmaker. So while he hasn't dabbled in as many high concept things, he can probably deliver a stronger character story, which this sounds like it's going to be. And then I'm just not feeling good about Sergeant Rock with losing Daniel Craig. I like Luca Guadagnino, but I don't think that he necessarily has the voice or the staying power in Hollywood right now to make this thing happen without Daniel Craig, but we'll see.
Well, it's also like Daniel Craig is what made that story interesting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like, wow, I don't know Sergeant Rock. I mean, Luke Guadagnino, a hot director right now. Like, that's cool. You got a good director but you're pulling from an obscure property, but you put Daniel Craig in there. That's what makes it a story. And now, it's just like, okay, let's see who they can pull out for the next one. As for Pattinson, I think their quote is funny because they still won't just say for sure he's not it. Which to me feels like their quote was, "It's certainly not the plan. We need one in the DCU," which to me sounds like we can't wait on the Pattinson to finish what they're doing so we can bring him in, and we have a different idea, but we are getting pressure to do it because people like that movie and they like the Penguin, and it feels to me like there's definitely getting some push to do it because they're like, it's certainly not the plan, but we might have to.
Yeah. Well, they also they mentioned in this event too that the script for the Batman 2 is not done, that Matt Reeves has not turned in a completed script, and we know a lot's going on with Matt Reeves right now, apparently, and it's just taking a lot of time to get that script out there. So if you've got a 6-year plan to culminate the universe, you can't wait on Batman to show up in 2027 or whatever. And ultimately you got something to do here. I think they're waiting on Batman probably to see the success of Superman first. I think if you're Warner Brothers and you're David Zaslav and Superman doesn't do well at the box office, then that conversation about Batman and who Batman is probably looks a little bit different with James Gunn. And I think if you're David Zaslav and Superman bombs, you're bringing him in and being like, look, we already got a Batman. He's established. Get Matt Reeves in here. Let's figure it out. So I think there's probably a little bit of hesitation there until we can see the universe do something first and see if it can stand on its own 2 feet before we bring in our own Batman to it.
Yeah, if he has a huge success, he's gonna get all the power and
he'll
control.
get his Batman. If Superman's a huge hit.
We haven't had a solo Superman movie in a long, long time, but
2013.
Yeah, I think Batman movies tend to make more at the box office, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
So I'm wondering if if your Superman is so good that it can beat this Batman that was pretty popular, we'll give you a shot. But if you can't hit these numbers, we can't bet on you to make a better Batman than a Batman we've already built,
Yeah.
Well, when we get back from our break, we have got a packed lightning round this week. Amazon suddenly owns James Bond. The Last of Us Season 2 premiere date was announced. Disney Plus shows have cast and crew updates, plus box office, SAG awards, and more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Multiverse News. We have a Patreon. You want to tell them about it, Haley?
I'm going to tell you all about it. It's only $4 a month over at patreon.com/Multiverse Newscast, a bargain at any price. If you join, you get a cool sticker.
Bring it out.
Isn't it
Bring
pretty?
it out.
You like it. You want it.
Pretty
it could be
sticker.
yours. We are so excited because today we got our 50th patron member. And so we decided we're going to start shouting all of you out a little bit. So everybody gets a shout out once a week. This week we're shouting out Luke Taylor. And Luke was an early addition to our Patreon. We thank you so much. But you get extra content over there. We've got extra episodes. You get the live streams exclusively over there because they go away after the show. Your own polls, and just get to chat with us and have fun. And so we love you. We thank you that support us. And go join patreon.com/Multiverse Newscast.
Yes. Thank you, Luke Taylor, specifically this week, and to all the patrons. We also have merch, which you can get at the link that we will have in the show notes.
And if you're a patron, you get 10% off anytime. It's not even a one-time code. You can use it every time.
That's right. Okay. Well, before we move on, Jay, just so the listeners and the video watchers know, Jay had to step out. So Jay Sisson has left us. Check him out on Commute the Podcast and all those other things. He will be missed this episode. But we're gonna continue with our Spotify poll. Are you excited for another Dune movie? 34.5% of you said no, leave it alone, and 65.5% of you said yes, I'd like some more.
And the eyes have it.
Yeah.
The blue eyes.
The blue eyes have it. Oh, goodness.
Spice will
for you,
flow.
Yeah. That's for you, Shirley. This is Shirley's your new...
That's really funny.
Whatever. There's some podcasts I listen to where the host would say sorry to his mom every time he cursed, but he said it by name. So he's like, I forget her name, but it was like Angela or something. He'd be like, sorry, Angela. And he did that a couple of times, but then it was a call-in show, so the listeners started doing it, and so now everyone that curses would say sorry, Angela, whatever, every time. It's really funny.
Angela's just inspiring everybody to be better.
Yeah. Eventually he brought her on as a guest, I think. Good show.
That's fun.
All right. We're going to move on to our lightning round. This is the part of the show where I'm going to read a story, and then we're going to shout out our names if we would like to comment on that story, and we're going to, just one person can respond, except for once per lightning round, you can get your rebuttal in. So one rebuttal per lightning round. So here we go. The James Bond movie franchise is going through a shakeup with Amazon MGM Studios and Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli forming a new joint venture to house the movie property's intellectual property rights. Under the terms of the agreement, Amazon MGM Studios will gain creative control of the James Bond franchise, while Wilson and Broccoli will remain co-owners of the 60-year-old property. In 2022, Amazon acquired MGM. Since the MGM acquisition, Amazon has held rights to distribute all the James Bond films, and following completion of the joint venture transaction, will control the creative on future productions.
Haley. So this has been cooking for a long time, and Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli have not wanted to hand over the reins creatively to Amazon. And I think that probably they got paid very, very well by Amazon to finally let go of those. Barbara says it in the interview that it's been 60 years of her life. Her dad was Cubby Broccoli. He's the one that really started, adapting and making these James Bond movies as we know them. And so I'm sad to see like that legacy be gone creatively. The fandom of James Bond is an interesting one. It's kind of a universe. It's kind of not. The Daniel Craig movies were definitely a universe. We even covered them over on Bingers Assemble, Matt and Scotty and I. So go check that out if you haven't. But I know when we finished No Time to Die, I was like, this to me was not a James Bond movie. This was a Daniel Craig movie that was him saying goodbye to the character, and he just happened to be James Bond kind of a thing. So I don't know that was necessarily the creative decision of Wilson and Broccoli or not. They were in charge at the time. What does it mean going forward? All of the things I saw on the web space was like, oh, here comes the James Bond verse. And it's like, well, it's always been a verse. If you want to look at it that way, it really always has been. It lives in this sphere of perpetual James Bondness, if you ask me. And so I know before we've talked about this a little bit, and I was kind of like, yeah, I think a TV series could be a good way to adapt James Bond stories, especially if you really go to the source material that Ian Fleming wrote and make them like mini series that are very down and dirty. They could be really gritty. They could be hard to watch, kind of MA stuff, which could be fun and different for the character. It's always very polished. It's always martini with a twist, that kind of a thing. I always think of Pierce Brosnan first when I think of James Bond because he's the one I grew up with, and so that polished look has been what the series has been known for. So could it take a different way either as a television series or as movies? I think so, but I think that it's going to be a divided reaction no matter what, and it's always the conversation is always who's the next Bond, and we haven't landed on one yet, but I bet Amazon's going to very soon.
I will definitely throw my rebuttal here. The big thing is the franchise-ification of this. That's both the fear and the excitement of this story. Because the thing that Wilson and Broccoli have done all these years is they've tried to keep the 007 franchise from being watered down. Like it is not watered down. Like it is every few years you get one, and it's going to be really high quality. The effects are going to be amazing. The acting is going to be spot on. Like for it, they are. You can look at Bond movies over the years, and you can tell what was happening in filmmaking at the time. Like Bond movies are snapshots of that era, and like all kinds of things you can tell from a Bond movie. They really are time capsules in this way, and I'm excited that you can, because I've been saying it. I joked in our chat that the reason they did this is because John Wick snatched up Ana de Armas to do the ballerina, and they're like, we let Paloma die on the vine, as it were. But Paloma was a character in the last Bond movie who I was like, spin off, 100%, give Ana de Armas a spin off. This is amazing. They didn't do it, and I bet there were probably talks, and people were like, no, we don't want to water down the franchise. When there are exciting characters in the future, they will make series about them. They will make spin-off movies. Amazon will have no problem watering down the franchise, unfortunately, and that's the fear. But it's also, we could get great series and movies. Our entire show here is based on this franchisification of things and how fun that can be. But it is sad to see this one property that was like sort of protected from all that fall to the same corporate overlords, I guess. But maybe we'll get a Paloma movie and it'll all be worth it. Season 2 of The Last of Us finally has a premiere date. The 7-episode season of the drama will debut April 13th on HBO. That means the season will complete its run in late May, just under the wire for Emmy eligibility this year.
Scotty, Matt, I know you're a fan of this one as well, but I will say on Jabe's behalf a resounding hell yeah, because I know he's excited for this one. I'm excited for this one as well. We have both played the video games and know the story that's being teased. But I will hone in on the fact that they chose to have it, released within Emmy eligibility there. I think they're hedging their bets around that. I think between Pedro Pascal's performance as well as, I don't have her name off the top of my head.
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey, thank you.
Haven't even seen it.
You're that good. As well as some of the new characters, particularly like Caitlin Deaver. I just know the journey that character is going to go on. I think it's going to be very ripe material for some awards contingent and some great performances.
Jack O'Connell and Delroy Lindo, who will both star in Ryan Coogler's upcoming film Sinners, have joined the cast of Legendary's upcoming MonsterVerse sequel, Godzilla x Kong.
Scotty? So I'm the resident Godzilla guy. I accept that, and I embrace that. But I'll admit, like, Delroy Lindo, I know his name by reputation, but Jack O'Connell was one of those guys, like, I've heard his name more and more, but I could not confidently tell you who he was. But I went back and rewatched that Sinners trailer, and I do have to say he's a standout. Like, he's that guy that's like, we heard tale of a party, and it's just like, okay, this guy's got something. So if he can bring that energy and that level to, like, kind of like what Dan Stevens, who I talked about a couple of weeks ago, he brought, like, he's a human character, but he's bringing a little something extra, because, like, the human characters are paper thin. It's all about the monsters, but, you know, give me something to grab onto there.
Yeah. Kitao Sakurai, perhaps the best known for writing, directing, and executive producing The Eric Andre Show, has been tapped to direct Street Fighter, Legendary Entertainment's feature adaptation of the classic video game from Capcom. Matt?
Go ahead.
What a weird choice. What a weird choice to go from The Eric Andre Show to directing this. But that's a huge leap in like style of movie, and I kind of hope they're doing something weird with it. Like we've had Street Fighter movies before, and if you did a Street Fighter movie that was just weirdly comedic, like the Eric Andre Show was, that could be a cool thing. But yeah, it's a weird choice for to go from that to Street Fighter. DC Studios has confirmed that the studio has greenlit 3 younger skewing animated series, including My Adventures with Green Lantern, which will follow Jessica Cruz, DC Superpowers, which takes place in the Alliance School for Heroes, and Starfire, which will follow Starfire from the Teen Titans.
Haley, but when are we finishing Young Justice, James Gunn? That's my question. No, these are cool. But again, like, oh my gosh, so many projects. So many activities.
My niece's roller derby name is Starfire, named after this character. So she's excited. I had to tell her about this story before we started tonight. She was very excited. Agatha All Along and WandaVision creator Jack Schaefer will direct the pilot episode of Disney Plus's upcoming series adaptation of Holes. Deadline also confirmed that the lead role in the series will be gender swapped from original source material.
Haley, that all makes sense with what we know about Jack Schaefer. She is a female forward writer who likes to put women in her projects. So I think that's cool. But Holes is so weird. It's also just like right up her alley.
Scotty with a tiny butt. So in the original Holes, the character's name is Stanley Yelnats, which is a palindrome. So what is the new character's name going to be? Because I guess maybe she's still Stanley, but that'd be a choice.
I don't know. I've had too much Diet Coke. My brain cells are too dead today to be able to come up with something on the spot.
It's really funny. Variety reported that Tony Dalton is reprising his role as Jack Duquesne, aka the Swordsman, in 2 episodes of the upcoming Marvel series Daredevil Born Again. Dalton first portrayed the character in Hawkeye.
Scotty, I was already excited. Now I'm even more excited because while I liked Hawkeye, I thought Tony Dalton was largely wasted in Hawkeye. And knowing him from Better Call Saul and the absolute villain and the type of villain that relished in his villainy, I'm hoping that we get to see a different gear from Jack Duquesne and Tony Dalton in Daredevil Born Again.
I know I've already butted, but tiny butt. I just am really excited as well. And I don't necessarily want to see him be villainous. I liked who he was. Like, he was one of my favorite parts of Hawkeye. Like, I really liked his sort of, they did this sort of fake out thing. You thought he was a villain, and it turned out he was kind of a cool guy in the end. And I was like, so I could totally see him being someone who teams up with Matt for an episode or 2 and has, or more likely, this will be the case This will be a case that he has to, that Matt has to try. Matt will be his defense attorney.
Okay.
I bet that's it.
Sure.
Well, wasn't it Kate's mom who was she dating or married to him?
I think she was married at that point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So maybe her mom's in court on trial or something.
There we go.
Yeah,
I like
all of that.
Yeah.
That would be really cool if they picked up the legal cases from Hawkeye directly and moved them into this show. That'd be really fun. Or, man, that's got me excited because, like, what other legal cases from around the MCU could you grab and throw into a courtroom during Daredevil? Oh, love it. Sony Pictures announced Friday that Spider-Man 4 is now set for theatrical release on July 31st, 2026, a week later than previously scheduled. Filmmaker Dustin Daniel Cretton is helming the movie that is currently untitled.
Scotty, they heard Matt gloating too much about his birthday and movie releases on his birthday, so they did this just to spite him.
That's exactly right.
I was going to say, they heard Jay saying it's too close to the Odyssey.
Oh, right. That's more likely, actually, the case.
Yeah, for sure. Momentum is gaining on A24's live-action Barney movie, first announced in 2019 from Mattel Films and Daniel Kaluuya's 59% Productions, as the companies have set Emmy and Golden Globe winner Ayo Edebiri to write the screenplay and also have her in talks to star.
Scotty, this movie sounds like it's just more and more shaping up to be an absolute fever dream. And I think if you're going to do a Barney adaptation in 2025, 2026, that's kind of the direction you got to lean into. So I'm a big fan of Ayo Edebiri based on what I've seen from her thus far. Not super familiar with her writing credits, but I think more and more we're seeing people that have talent in front of the camera have a vested interest in not being limited to just that. So I say, if they've got the creativity, give them the platform to do it, and let's see what she's got.
I am the lightning round bad actor this week, but
just because Jay's here doesn't mean you can't follow the rules.
Listen, Jay's not here. There's less of us. We say we're saving on time. Like, it's fine. We got a little extra time in the kitty. We can just throw it back out. No, Ayo. Have you guys seen Ayo on SNL?
I have not.
She is amazing on SNL. Nice. I think she has some like improv background or whatever. Like, I watch those episodes that she's on, and she is like a cast member. She is more fitting into the setting of being a cast member than any other host I've ever seen. I think she's one of the most impressive SNL hosts I've seen. Really, really killer. Like the interaction and the sort of improvisational style of going back and forth, or whatever, feels completely like she just fits. It's amazing. And so knowing her from The Bear and then seeing her on that is just such a different vibe, and I was really impressed. Nickelodeon has ordered a follow-up series to Avatar: The Last Airbender titled Avatar 7 Havens. The series will have 26 episodes and was developed by original series creators Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko with Avatar Studios.
Scotty, this Avatar: The Last Airbender continues to be one of Nickelodeon's most successful franchises. It's been one of those franchises that, since it came out in the mid-2000s, they've kind of, let it cool for a little while and always bring it back. So we had The Legend of Korra, and then we had the live-action series. We've had books and comics and supplemental materials. So this just makes a lot of sense. I think this is going to be one of those series that just kind of goes on as long as there's an audience there for it, and as the original audience members start to have kids that are getting of age to start to watch something like this, we're just going to see more and more of it. Will this be the final straw that gets me to go back and rewatch it? Probably not, but I'm really excited for all of my friends that are super excited for it.
Captain America: Brave New World led the box office this weekend, mustering up $28.3 million, a 68% drop-off from its opening weekend. Currently, the film has pulled in $289.4 million worldwide. Coming in second with $14.2 million was Osgood Perkins' The Monkey, a horror film with a $10 million production budget.
Haley for Jay, because he's not here. He'd be like, called it, you guys. That's a huge drop, and it was projected, but still, I think that movie is doing well for Brave New World. I think it's still bringing in the money, so I'm not going to get all negative Nancy Pants on that. But Osgood Perkins, and I know, Scotty, you probably want to get in on this, but he has become very well known recently for Longlegs. That was his big film last year that was huge in the horror scene and really acclaimed, just I think across the board. So even though this wasn't like a huge outing for it, I think he's going to start getting cachet. And so when you see his films in the box office, I think they're going to start doing well for the horror genre.
Yeah, for sure. I'll jump in here real quick. Yeah, in terms of Captain America, it's not the hold that I wanted to see, but I'm not necessarily like fretting for the movie, but certainly with a drop like that, it doesn't help the arguments against the naysayers, right? So, but yeah, Haley, to your point, Osgood Perkins, he had Longlegs last summer, so people were really anticipating The Monkey. I went and saw it, and it's wild. It is wild. A completely different tone and direction from Longlegs. I don't know if I liked it or not. I certainly liked parts of it, but it is just a very wild movie. So if you have any interest whatsoever, go check it out and be a part of the conversation.
The Screen Actor Guild Awards were handed out on Sunday night. In the film categories, Conclave won the award for Best Performance by a Cast. Timothée Chalamet was named Best Leading Actor for A Complete Unknown, and Demi Moore won Best Actress in a Leading Role for The Substance. Kieran Culkin won the award for Best Supporting Actor in a Film for A Real Pain, with Zoe Saldana winning Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Amelia Perez. On the TV side, Shogun nabbed 3 awards, including Best Drama Series Ensemble. Only Murders in the Building won the award for Best Comedy Series Ensemble, whilst Martin Short was named Best Actor in a Comedy Series for his role on the show. Jean Smart was named Best Actress in a Comedy Series for Hacks. Jessica Gunning won Best Actress in a TV movie or limited series for Baby Reindeer, and Colin Farrell was named Best Actor in a TV movie or limited series for The Penguin.
Haley? A lot of these have been sweeps this year at the awards shows. Shogun, Jean Smart for Hacks, Colin Farrell for Penguin, Zoe Saldana, and Kieran Culkin. They have been just cleaning up at all of these awards shows, which is cool for some of them. With Zoe and Kieran, it's getting a little old because like they are winning every single Best Supporting award at all of the shows, and I'm like, can we shake it up a little? And then SAG did. They were like, here you go, Timothée Chalamet. Adrian Brody, you go sit down. We're giving it to Timmy over here for A Complete Unknown. And I thought his speech was really cool. He was like, I know I should be humble about this, but I want to be a great. I want to be known as a great, and this is fuel to my fire. And some people were calling that conceited or whatever, and I was like, you know what? Somebody who wants what they want and they're going for it, I think that's great, and I think it was well deserved. And if you want to hear about A Complete Unknown, we dropped it on Bingers Assemble, where we're covering all the Best Picture nominees.
Writer-producer Robert Orci died February 25th after a battle with kidney disease. Orci is known for such projects as Xena the Warrior Princess, Hercules, Legendary Journeys, Star Trek, Mission Impossible 3, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and many, many other well-known films and television shows.
Yeah, this is just really sad. Obviously, this is a guy that had his fingers in a lot of the things that we love here. I know Star Trek, Transformers, those were some of the first places that I became familiar with his name. But then if you go down the catalog of his projects, Xena, Fringe, I think is another one that he had a hand in. So it's just really sad because he was only 51 years old, which is way, way too young. And it also comes as a shock to me because I did not know he was battling with any kind of disease. So as we always say on this show, though, I want to extend the most sincere and deep condolences to his friends and family first and foremost, but obviously all of the fans of his work as well.
Absolutely. Puck has reported boss of Lucasfilm Kathleen Kennedy has told associates that she plans to retire at the end of 2025 after more than a decade in the position.
Haley, I don't have a problem with Kathleen Kennedy. A lot of Star Wars fandom does. If she's retiring, then good for her. I'm always just jealous of people who get to retire in general. I don't care what your job is. I'm just like, God, I hope I get to retire someday. But she was George's successor. He handpicked her to take over Lucasfilm. And so, she's had a good tenure there.
Amazon has revealed a first-look image at Masters of the Universe. The image featured a shirtless Galatzine as He-Man with his head cut out of the frame. He is holding a large sword up to his chest, grasping the weapon firmly in his hands. His wrist and mid-chest appear to be supported by armor.
Scotty, I just thought this was really funny as a first look. It's like, what's important about this movie? It's not the guy. We're going to cut his head out. It's the pectoral muscles and the sword. Like, that is what you need to focus on for this movie. So I guess it's a strong marketing choice. Let's see how the rest of the marketing is informed by this direction they're pursuing.
Tiny butt?
Yeah.
It looks like an action figure. I mean,
fair enough.
I was like, okay, if that's like, I don't know anything else about this, it looks good.
I will say, you should, if you're interested in He-Man, you should go look at it. I feel like describing it the way we described it with the head cut off sounds worse than it is. To me, it looks like it's a picture of the sword and chest of He-Man, and it just kind of looks like an iconic shot of He-Man's pecs, which it didn't look as I'm wondering if that has something to do, because He-Man also had that weird hair, and I'm wondering what they're going to do with that, and I'm wondering if some of this just has to do with like not being fully prepared to show the head yet.
They got to embrace it. They got to go. Yeah, they got to go like full on Mr. Drummond haircut.
Who's Mr. Drummond?
From Severance, the big guy. Season 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It is the same.
Yeah. But no, I agree with both of your takes. Like, and the reason I kind of laugh, especially the fact that it looks like an action figure, it totally does look like an action figure. But just seeing the headlines, like, "Hey, we've got our first look," and you go and click on it, you can't even see the dude's face. That's where I just had to laugh about it. Like, what a first look! Yeah,
totally. All right, well. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on Multiverse News. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and check us out on all the things. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse. Especially you, Shirley.
Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing. Eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. StrandedPanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. And thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.